everyone, and welcome to Geotab's Wildcard Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name's Shay Green. I am the learning consultant here at Geotab. For today's session, we're actually going to be hearing from Colin Sutherland, our EVP of Sales and Marketing, Joel Beam, our VP of Operations, Derek Carter, our VP of Customer Experience, and Ryan Hoover, our AVP of Strategic Partnerships. So you have an amazing lineup today. They'll be discussing managing businesses in uncertain economic times. And with that being said, I'm going to hand things over to Colin to get started.
Thank you, Shay, for that great introduction, and welcome everybody that's on the call today. It's our pleasure to join you today under these really strange, uncharted waters and very uncertain economic times. And what we wanted to share with you today is that while some of you have managed your business in for the last 11 years during growth years, during the bull market that we've all experienced since 2009. Geotab, this is our 20th year of doing business. So we've been in business for 20 years. We've experienced 2 recessions back in the early 2000s and mid 2000s. And our technology, we know, is very relevant to businesses because we don't define our technology as a tool just for growth or just to locate where vehicles are. We see ourselves as a company that primarily is in the business of generating data that our customers use to manage the health of their organization, to assess where people are at, and do we have the right assets positioned in the right strategic locations. In growth markets, that technology is very, very useful to determine how fast and where do you upscale your organization. In recessionary markets, which we know is not declared as a recession right now, but certainly these are uncertain times, it's the time for us to sit back and pause about our assets and about our people, and are they safe? And do we need to rethink how we conduct business? And certainly that is what we're all experiencing today. As you can see, all of us here at Geotab are working from home today as we are on this call. Fortunately for Geotab, I'll just give you a health checkup for us. We are a very healthy organization. The pivot for Geotab to work from home has been a natural transition for us. Already our tools inside our organization were web-based collaborative tools. We use Google Cloud and Google Cloud Platform, which has shared documents, Google Docs, Google Drive, shared documents. This meeting is GoToWebinar. We use Hangouts and chat all the time, which is also a Google tool, part of their cloud platform. So the ability for us to collaborate, to work remotely is a natural transition for Geotab. This has not been a cultural change for us as an organization as we pivoted into these exact uncertain times that we're at today and working from home. But we understand that for all of our customers, including our small business customers and our very largest enterprise clients, each one of you is experiencing what's happening right now in a very different way, with a very different lens. Some of you might be experiencing growth if you're in the last mile delivery business. If you're in the healthcare industry with healthcare workers, you may be experiencing not growth, you're certainly experiencing demand, and you're certainly experiencing demand through a different lens of safety for your own employees. And then there are other people in the retail and tourism sectors that are obviously right now concerned about how we park vehicles and then how do we re-emerge better for it, maybe even more agile for it on the backside of whatever this is going through that we're going through today. So we wanted to share with you for the next hour some thoughts from these leaders that we've got assembled for you today, on some thoughts about how, in our experience, we can help you make some different decisions under these uncertain moments. I'm just going to start walking you through at the beginning, just our management by measurement philosophy, which I started to talk about, our ecosystem, some data insights, and then how we can maybe start to pivot into the presentations from Joel Beam, who is our customer success leader. Many of you know Joel and Joel's terrific team and how we engage. The asset utilization is going to be covered by Ryan Hoover, who's going to talk to you about how you go and think about assets and where they position, and maybe even rethinking your strategy with some of the reports you may even be familiar with, but you may have used some reports for growth. By using those same reports with a different lens, that could perhaps help you re-examine your strategy today for your assets and where they are. And then lastly, we're going to wrap up with our leader in customer experience with Derek Carter on engaging, learning, and sharing. I really wanted to talk to you about just the health of our ecosystem and how vibrant it is and how important feedback and feedback loop is to Geotab. We go to market through a distributed network. We are a foundation platform of 1,300 people whose job every day is to make sure that our systems are scalable, reliable, and secure. That's our need as a business to you, our customers, to make sure that our systems are scaling, that we're offering you the variety of reports and data access that you need to make critical business decisions. At the same time, we have third parties that develop applications that you can add on to our technology called Marketplace. Marketplace, if many of you know, Marketplace is a great ecosystem of things like mobile form developers and other hardware add-ons that people use to extend the value of not just the telematics data itself coming from our devices, but rather how are your back office systems working and what are you using for your CRM, your ERP systems and other systems, and how can you integrate the data from the vehicles into those other systems so you can fully scale up and automate your own business. In a day of transition and economic uncertainty, business automation is key. So having fewer manual touches of data and automating your systems is absolutely key for you to remain agile and cost effective to be able to compete. Our technology is delivered through authorized resellers, and many of you on this call have a variety of our great partner ecosystem, and each one of those partners that we have has some unique selling proposition and some subject matter expertise, and that's why you decided to buy our technology from them. And then, lastly, but most importantly, you, our customers, are essential to not just the consumption of the data, but we need you to go and feed back information into Geotab and let us know how are you using the product and what are your current objectives. Right now, you're resetting your 2020 and maybe rethinking your 2020. How can you feed information back into Geotab so we can absorb your objectives and then deliver information back out through our entire ecosystem? And it's this great ecosystem loop that's essential to the vibrancy of what we have built over here over the last 20 years, and why now we're proudly the #1 organization in the world. We are a privately held organization, which means that we're profitable and we're not distracted by what's going on in Wall Street right now with the Dow Jones and the roller coaster going on there. We're laser focused on you, our customers, and business continuity, and I'm happy to tell you that we are only distracted right now with your health as our business customers. So one thing that I wanted to work into how we can communicate, because communication is a big key. It's that feedback loop that we send out to you and you send back to us, is our blog posts. And we're really, really proud of our blogs. We've had 638 blogs written and over 1 million users who actually receive that blog notification as they come out. And I'm really proud to show you the very next slide, which is a blog that just came out last night. Actually, many of you who subscribe to the blog would have seen it, on things like fleet industry trends and including our data science team's work. As a My Geotab user, you have this little field, and hopefully you've discovered it inside our software, because I think it's the most phenomenal thing. We launched this about 4 or 5 months ago, called Fleet Industry Trends. So in addition to the vehicles that you have in your own database, all of your vehicle data is aggregated in an anonymous form. We can't identify who you are up in our big anonymous database with 40 billion pieces of data being collected up there every single day. But what we can do with all that 40 billion pieces of data is we can start creating these insights into how our overall 2 million vehicles that we have around the world are performing. One such screen, which you'll see yourself if you log into My Geotab, find Fleet Industry Insights, you'll see the exact same screen that I'm showing you here right now. It's idling percentage by vehicle location. And you'll see that we've clustered these things called vehicle location. Hub and spoke, quick stops, patrollers like a first responder, long distance overnight, long haul, long distance day cab, a door-to-door delivery fleet, and so on down the line, right down to school buses and so on. It's important to us to not identify a customer of ours by what SIC code you're. And that's a real problem in the telematics industry. Often people in your own businesses, you think, well, what SIC code, or what does Dun & Bradstreet classify my company as? If we classified all pest control companies as all being in the residential delivery business because they met that SIC code, we'd be doing you a disservice, because quite frankly, some of your vehicles, let's say you're in the pest control industry, might be doing some residential stops, but you might also be doing some industrial work and might have some heavy duty equipment. You might also be doing some really heavy stuff, and you've got some big box trucks delivering product to cross country to different job sites. So it's not your SIC code that matters when you're benchmarking your own company's performance. It's what is the vocation of your vehicles? How do your administrative assets, your cars, differ from your delivery vehicles, from your service technician vehicles to your long haul vehicles? That's what's interesting to us. So when you take a look at Fleet Industry Insights and you're looking at these clusters, understand that the clusters there for us are actually meaningful at how your vehicles are doing their job, not you as a business and how your business is doing. It helps us identify some greater insights at the vocational use of the asset level, not at the SIC code level. So let's go to the next slide, and I'll tell you about the latest blog post and the latest insight from our data science team, which was just published today. This is actually taking a look at a daily basis based on the COVID outbreak right now. Our data science team is taking a look at all vehicle traffic as it's evolving day to day to day. So we want to see what the impact is on last mile delivery fleets, on commercial trucking, on industrial trucking, on warehouse delivery fleets. Down in the lower right-hand corner, you'll even see cars, heavy-duty trucks, light-duty trucks, medium-duty trucks. We've broken that down by asset type. And then on a regional basis, in the lower left-hand corner, you can see these are a difference from yellow, which is 100%, which would be considered normal for that day of the week. So on March 16th, if all vehicles are driving exactly as every other day, that would be, let's say that was a Sunday, whatever day March 16th was, that would be considered 100%. But any deviation off of 100% is going to be colored a darker and darker color. And we've broken that down by region, across Canada and across the United States. So for example, if you're in the northwest part of the United States, region 10, we call that, on March 22nd, you have a very strong deviation off of 100%. So something is going on there in the northwest part of the United States that is absolutely key and showing us that it has absolutely been eroding in terms of the number of truck trips taking place in that part of North America. We can see that Mexico, for example, right above that line, 92%, virtually unaffected on the 22nd of March. So these are small insights, graphic ways that our team is able to show in the aggregate anonymous form how all of our vehicles are performing on a regional basis. And I'm really happy to tell you that we just are starting to launch this as a live update. So you can go and check out the blog. It just came out hours ago. If you go to the Geotab blog, you'll see the first one is border crossings. It is a live website that's going to be refreshing throughout the day, showing you and anybody else that cares to go and log into it, the impact on border crossing traffic. Now, it doesn't always have to be negative. This shouldn't be a negative story, right? In some cases, we actually have companies that are positively impacted. They're actually growing more, driving more in the last mile space. As I said, some of the supply chain people are really trying to hire more people right now that can't keep up with the demand. So this is about planning. It's about planning in this economic reality we're in today. If we can give you data tools to help you plan in real time, give you some more insights, I hope that you will start to understand that Geotab as a partner of yours and your valued partner in data isn't just providing you with a dot on the map and where your vehicles are today. Yes, you have that at the database level. You are able to manage your fleet, and you've got all these great reports this amazing leadership team that's on this webinar with me is going to share with you. But it's also that we're able to provide you with insights so you can get a bigger picture view of what's happening based on how your vehicle is contributing to a big pool of 2 million vehicles around the world, and how that's going to help you maybe make some other consultative discussions or more insightful decisions about how you want to move forward in growth years, in austerity years, or even in just towing the line and emerging. So to help you have those discussions with your teams, sometimes it's hard when you think, well, I guess I have to reinvent myself and I have to rethink and reimagine my business the way it is. For years, we've talked about pillars, and I find the pillars for us is a place that we can have great conversation, because it's hard just to sit back and say, well, how do I reinvent? But if you can start thinking about, well, what are we doing on the productivity side? And how are we geofencing right now? What do we know about our customers, and how frequently do we park with customers? All the way through things like optimization, where do I park my vehicles? Where are they domiciled overnight? Now we're all working from home. Does that mean that that's a new normal and we have to work from home? And then maybe if it's a warehouse location, you're a white van distributor, your current employees leave their home and they drive to your location, they pick up the vehicle, and then they go from there on their daily run. Maybe that's not going to be the new normal. Maybe you're going to have your employee take the white van home, park it at home. You're going to move consignment inventory into the van in the employee's driveway, and they're only going to need to come back to the warehouse every few days to go and restock. In fact, you may even have people coming to the residential address and restocking the van overnight on behalf of the employee. So dealing with the idea of what we're having today, and also reimagining our business based on what I think is a foreseeable social distancing future, at least, if we have even now in a business operation with maybe 2 employees in the same vehicle, Right now, we're being told at work we have to socially distance 6 feet apart. Well, what if I have a driver and then I have a coworker and two of them are required to go and do a job? It may be that in the short term, you need to rent a vehicle, put that second employee in that vehicle and allow them to get to the same job site together, but in separate vehicles. So they are social distancing in their transportation to the job site. And that's important considerations as you're thinking through how do we go and change how we go and get from point A to point B, but still able to generate revenue, still able to go and conduct our business. And one thing I wanted to make you aware of, like when we go to our Geotab marketplace, I was thinking about this for one of our clients that's in the residential home cleaning business. Often they have two home cleaners that go to a residence and they clean the home on behalf of the client. And they thought, well, maybe we have to rethink that and just go as a single cleaner who's going to come and do one house, and the second person would take that rented car and they would go to the additional home that they would be working on together. But the reason the two are paired up is for safety. And we want to have two people together because they're in that residential home and they're working with each other and one can keep each other's eye on each other. Well, something like OK Alone, which is a marketplace partner application used by the oil and gas industry and other industries for guys in the utility industry, and they're up in utility poles and they're working by themselves. And if they have a problem, they hit a distress button and then they have someone that goes and helps them out. Well, these tools are available now. They're in our marketplace. Rethink how we're going to conduct a work alone or a lone worker strategy. And maybe there are applications right now in the business world, in the industrial world, that we can even bring into our residential markets and our residential businesses that you may be running yourselves. This is just one idea, but really we've got so many tools that help you rethink, reinvent, and to restart. We're passionate here about small business. Yes, we have some massive, massive enterprise clients that are terrific and they've helped us grow over the years, but I can tell you that the backbone of our business, over 30,000 of our 40,000 customers have less than 30 vehicles in their overall business. Small business is essential to our company's growth. Your viability as a business is essential to our company's sustainability, and we want you to be able to grow. We want you to use these great tools and reach out to us. So with that, I think I'm passing the mic over to you, Mr. Joel Beam.
Thank you very much. So just a little background. We, on the customer success side, have just under 10,000 of you customers. Some of you on the call are maybe supported customers, some may not be. But I want to go over this little brief presentation and talk about what we're doing currently for our supported customers, some tools we're making available for all customers, and then maybe some messaging that we're providing to resellers if you're not a supported customer, for things to think through and how we can help provide value, insights, and strategy for customers who may need to rethink how they're currently doing business. So on our side, on the supported side, just to give everyone some comfort, if you are a supported customer or even if you're not, we do have multiple redundant systems and teams, multiple geographies. We've got teams that are comfortable working from home and typically do work from home. Everything, all the infrastructure is in place. If you need help, if you need to call and ask for some troubleshooting, we're here 24/7. On the success side, similar. We're here for you to answer your questions and help identify solutions to how we navigate this challenge. We are doing some proactive risk identification. So if you get a call from one of our team members, it's because we see something in your use case that maybe you want to address, or at least bring to the surface so we can start talking through that and consulting how we navigate this together. We've got a campaign underway to give all of our supported customers a call to check in to understand really how do we serve you better, and what needs do you have that we can start understanding at the corporate level to maybe make some shifts and adjustments to how we're supporting you. On that note, if you are a supported customer, you'll be getting a survey, and so I really would appreciate if you take the time. It's 60 seconds, it's 4 questions, and the heart of that survey is really to understand where are those pain points, where are those areas that we need to focus as an organization so we can respond to this in a way that's on target with your need, and we're not making some assumptions without having that kind of ground level clarity there. Always, we've got one-on-one consultations for customers if you need that. We are working through processes so that we can share some of these conversations with the resellers so that we're not disjointed in the communication, that we are partnering together to put you at the center of these conversations, and whatever that stakeholder ecosystem looks like for you and your reseller, that's a smart conversation that's targeted to your needs. We do have some solutions for impacted customers as well. So if you are in a position where this is really detrimental to your business, please reach out to your reseller, and we can talk through options there. We are launching a cost control best practices presentation, and we know that right now is a kind of a challenging time for some businesses, and so we want to first provide everybody with some insight as to how do you manage control over the short run so that we can ensure that the use of the product is really maximizing what it can do. And so I encourage you guys to attend that session. This is going to be something we launched on Friday. It's available to all customers, and this is going to be something we also make available multiple times throughout the week. So depending on the demand, depending on the attendance there, we may offer more sessions during the week as well. We want to make this convenient. We know that certain times may not work for everybody. So to start, it's going to be a Monday, Wednesday, Friday at different times, and we're going to be posting this in our community, which Derek Carter will talk to a little bit more, and I'll share a little bit as well. So we really want people to join there, get involved in the community. That's where the most recent and relevant updates are going to take hold. And also, as a participant in the community, as you have questions, concerns, thoughts, comments, there's a nice way for us to vote what topics really are resonating with the broader Geotab ecosystem, so we can focus our efforts there. And again, we really want to help you. We want to hear from you. What areas can we invest in? What areas can we take on to help all of us kind of navigate these waters a little bit more effectively? So if you're a supported customer, you're going to be getting this survey, so be on the lookout for it. Again, it's 4 questions, it's 60 seconds. It's multiple choice and then a free form text field for you to put in your specific needs, thoughts, concerns. And again, this is something that we can start aggregating, and really the intent here is really putting you at the focus and understanding how do we pivot, how do we adjust to make sure that we're meeting your needs successfully. So something new that we're launching, hopefully on Thursday, I won't promise that timeline, but it will be this week, is our on the community, our video onboarding page. And so we realize that not everybody has time in the day to spend an hour with a implementation specialist training on the product. And we wanted to make this easy for anybody, anytime, to get these insights in terms of how to maximize their use of the product. So there's a ton of great relevant info here in terms of how to use the product to meet your business needs. Part of that is going to be this video onboarding session, and you can see a little snippet here of some of those. These are getting reworked at the moment. This was a project we had on our roadmap that we are fast tracking to meet the needs a little bit quicker. So starting next week, we will have our videos adjusted a bit to make these a little more digestible. The intention here is to make our onboarding experience about an hour long, if that, with small 3 to 5 minute videos, so you can pick the topic that's most relevant for you, jump into that, and after 3 to 5 minutes, really understand how to use that tool or that feature. And then the last thing I wanted to chat on is just the messaging we're having with resellers at the moment. So if you're getting engaged by your reseller, here's what we've been providing them in terms of things to think through. So we want people to check in early and often. We know this is an evolving situation, and things change quickly. And so you may be getting engaged a little bit more frequently by your reseller. What we've asked is to funnel that feedback up. Those conversations that they're having with you, we also want to know, so that we can, again, understand where that pain point is and adjust and be impactful to the solution there. One thing to think on, and this is challenging for everybody, is the lens we're looking through in this situation. So a quick personal side note, it's my soapbox for 1 minute. I spent just under a decade as a Navy SEAL. How we approach adversity lends itself very well to how we come out of adversity. And so forcing ourselves to find the opportunity in this very challenging environment is something that I would challenge us all to do. When you only look at the negative and the challenges, all you see are those. When you force yourself to look at opportunities and how you can win, not just survive if that's where your business is, but win in this outcome or this event, you're going to find that these fringe 1% incremental improvement opportunities present themselves. So I challenge us all to think and force ourselves to look at this and find opportunities in here so we can pivot, even if it's small, and challenge our staff as well in the same regard. I know for the teams that I manage, the expectation is not that we survive this kind of current state of affairs, but that we thrive in it and that we improve in it. And so our expectation of the team is to dig deeper and to find innovation and to find ways that we can meet our customer needs even more completely. So I would challenge us all there. On the reseller side, again, kind of flipping back, I want them looking and kind of gauging each customer. Not everybody's in the same boat. Some organizations are crushed with volume at this point because they've got a pivot to their business model where they're seeing traction. Some people are laying low, and then some people are impacted. And so really want them to understand who their customers are and where they're at in this event. And then again, we are standing here as a resource to help them navigate those conversations as well. A lot of times, some of the first reactions are to cut costs and drop, maybe unplug a device. And really, that may not be your best solution. Sometimes the best solution is jumping into those cost control strategies and identifying how you manage your fleet most cost effectively in this environment. And so I want to encourage those conversations first to say, how do we maximize this use case? How do we ensure that our fleet is being effective before we go into any other kind of thought process? They should also be looking to survey customers as well. Again, we want to get that feedback back up. And again, I encourage everyone to look at your data. So we engage with a lot of customers on a weekly basis. It's shocking how many have devices that are turned on, haven't communicated. That's gold in terms of how you manage your fleet. And so I encourage everybody to look at that, pay attention to what devices haven't communicated, get those back up and running. It provides a ton of really relevant information that you can capitalize on currently, and these will be things we cover in our cost control strategy presentation in the next coming days and week. And with that, I will turn it over to my good friend Ryan Hoover to talk about asset utilization.
Thank you, Joel. Great information there, and it is a good segue. You know, I think something that's very important right now is it's pretty safe bet that everyone out there, their businesses are impacted in one way or another. Some in good ways, some in bad, some in a mixture of both. And so, you know, I'm going to give you some ideas of how to use Geotab to consider and put some thought around how we can monitor our assets, making sure we're getting the most out of them, and translating that into business changes that can lead to, you know, at least alleviation or improvements in your operations during an uncertain time. So this is something just wanted to give you more of a heads up on, you know, similar to what Joel was referring to. We are working with resellers to give them some insight and also want to help you. So we're working on some reports to give you guys a sense of, to help customers get a sense of how your device usage is working. And that might tie into billing concerns. You might be in a really tough spot and you may need to suspend some devices. In all these cases, we encourage you to reach out to your reseller. We are empowering our resellers to help you through this time, and we are serious and committed to rapidly responding and help you guys through this time. So we're coming up with some reports, you know, not only with our big data team, but work with resellers to get a sense of how your device usage is changing and be flexible and give you guys some options when your guys are going through a tough time. So if you have any feedback, definitely engage your reseller or our support teams, and we'll work to capture some of that as we're working through this current situation. So when we talk about utilization, you know, it's really a core part of the productivity pillar of Geotab's, you know, offering. And you know, in this next section, I really want to brainstorm and come up with some ideas of how can you use your fleet to its fullest potential, because you either have reduced demand or things are changing as the business. You may not be deemed as essential. There's a whole list of things that you may need to adjust, and I'll give some specific business cases to highlight that point. You know, you need to evaluate any opportunities to leverage existing assets, making changes to how you run your business, having drivers start from home. There's lots of different ways to, you know, accommodate the changes in your current situation. Adjusting business practices. If you're having reduced demand with servicing restaurants, then maybe you need to offer a new service. I'll give some examples of that. And then how does all of this translate into getting the most out of your Geotab setup, right? I think zones is a very critical component when you think about productivity and utilization. You want to make sure you're capturing all your driver home addresses, your branch addresses, your warehouses. For a host of regions, so just measuring and assessing how the performance is as you're making changes and dropping demand, getting a sense of what the impact is to the business. But, you know, there may even be a need to justify that your business is essential, and having your zones and business use cases in Geotab can help demonstrate some of that. And then the reports of what's my most utilized asset, what's my least utilized asset, what's the trend of how much or how less I'm driving over the past weeks and months as the situation is rapidly changing. And that's going to allow you to get a sense of how you can adapt and adjust, whether it's driver shifts, shift rotations, a host of examples of how you can make adjustments accordingly. So in general, it's safe to say your business is likely change, but there are different ways you can adjust depending on the different customer profiles. And here's some examples of different profiles and how you're currently being impacted. If you're deemed non-essential, you could be in a shutdown situation. Obviously, this is something where if your fleet is not being utilized, be creative, look to get a sense of, hey, can I share my fleet with other areas that are in demand and essential? Emergency services, food delivery, you name it. There's a lot of things that are essential. You could potentially communicate with, groups in the area to do so. Maybe you engage in a temporary essential service. Be creative, come up with something to leverage your assets. One example is we work with a pest control company, and big chunk of their business is commercial. They go service restaurants. They eliminate the rats at the restaurants, the roaches, etc. Well, the restaurants are closed. What they are doing is now offering a new service to say, hey, we can disinfect your home. We can come clean your homes and your businesses. If they're essential, we can offer a new service, and that gives them a reason to stay open for business and leverage their assets in a new way they had not done previously. And ultimately, if you're in a shutdown situation and you're having issues keeping the lights on, definitely engage your reseller. As I mentioned earlier, we're here to help the resellers, and they're here to help as well. You could be in a reduced demand and reduced costs, whether that's from not having to reduce your headcount, having to scale back on your costs. It's definitely key to retain your productive drivers, retain your productive assets, getting a sense of the numbers of how much I'm driving, how much I'm on site, gives you a sense of which drivers you need to focus on keeping, or potentially give them more of the shifts or adjust your resources accordingly. You could be in a case where you're trying to do the right thing. You have the same capacity of assets and vehicles, and you reduce demand. Maybe you need to use some reporting to get a sense of, okay, my driving and my utilization has gone down in half. So maybe I need to put a shift rotation to where half of my drivers work one day, half of them work the next. Come up with some options to smartly do it, spread the load, keep your drivers engaged and paid in a tough time. And then that's where you can get assessment, hey, my capacity is now increased. Go to your business leaders and say, hey, as I spoke to earlier, let's be creative. What are some different things we could do? Hey, now's a great time to do all of our maintenance or warehouse maintenance, or get our drivers engaged in the other half of their day to do cleanup of various things out in the field. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities there. And then if you're in a good situation, think of the Amazons of the world, you could have increased demands, but if you have the same capacity, you may be locked down on hiring headcounts. That's where you need to figure out how to route efficiently, figuring out some methods to increase your productivity, finding your productive drivers and using them as coaching opportunities for those that are not driving as more as they could be. So that's a good situation to be in. And so figuring out how to work smartly to make the most of your situation. Just be creative and use the utilization reports to get a sense of how your activity has changed and what you're going to do to adjust and improve. So I want to dive into one example in a bit more detail. And this scenario here is we got a broadband industry. Now they're in a lucky situation where a lot of people are working from home more. So they have actually an increased demand, increased installs as companies pay for those situations. But they are in a spot where they need to abide by social distancing. So what they have done is they want to have their drivers now start from their home location. So with that comes a lot of unique considerations. And so, for example, one thing that they're considering is, okay, if the driver's starting from home, do I need to adjust how they work as part of their day? And one example that this company is evaluating here is maybe instead of them expecting to be at the office at the start of their shift is I can change it to where they now start their first delivery or they start their first install right when their shift starts that day. Now that increases the amount of utilization that asset's doing for actual revenue generating jobs. So it's, hey, if you're working from home, why don't you start your first job when your shift starts instead of driving into the office? So making some adjustments there. Obviously, you need to consider how does inventory work? You don't want all your drivers coming in Wednesday at noon for inventory. They have to be socially distant. So is it to where you're coming into inventory? Is it to where you're delivering the inventory to the driver locations? Is it some other creative concept to where if half of your drivers live north of the city, then maybe you need a temporary pop-up location there. Some additional things here is just number of stops you're planning for them. If you're having them start at the the first delivery at the beginning of their shift, or depending on where their work is, maybe you need to adjust the number of planned stops. This visual example on the upper right speaks to kind of the area of planned stops. If a driver is starting from home, you can see that it's going to be tough for him to efficiently get to a couple of the planned deliveries for that day. So maybe I need to adjust the area he's working in to get more stops in the suburbs, or adjust where I'm sending my drivers to do their work. And that's going to help you be more efficient and potentially get more stops in your day and be more productive. And then one unique thing as part of this current situation is typically I'm planning for less deliveries or installs for my drivers because of traffic considerations. They can only it takes them 30 minutes to get to their first job from the office, and it takes 30 minutes at the end of the day to leave their last job and go home. So current situation, traffic is significantly diminished. So maybe temporarily I can increase the amount of stops I can get to those drivers, knowing that the drive time is less of a factor. So that gives me more flexibility to add more time to be on the customer site during the day. And maybe you can do things like increase your on-site customer time. You have less driving expectations. Maybe you're doing more customer satisfaction, where it's quality assessment, things of that nature. So lots of options there. So how does this tie to Geotab configuration? Well, for me, as part of this scenario, I would want to make sure my zones are adjusted. Now I would want to make sure I've got every driver home location accounted for. And then I would want to make sure I'm doing reporting adjustments to make sure I'm quantifying the time that they're spending at their home locations, because if they're starting from home, there's a good chance they may go back home more for lunch, or they're going to be working more in their area. You need to make sure you're accounting for all the different zones when they're going into the office, when they're at a customer site, when they're going to their home location, to make sure you're properly assessing the changes that have been made accordingly. So one of maybe brainstorming gives you guys some ideas of how you can get a sense of how my assets are being utilized and how that's leading to productivity. And one example is you could do some sort of productivity score. And that's usually a combination of how much am I driving that's productive during the day, what's my on-site time with customers, and then dividing that by a shift length to give you a percentage. Now, right now today, you could pull a report to get drive time and on-site time. So you don't really need a fancy score. You go in and get a sense of who's driving the most combined with on-site time, and getting a sense of who my most productive drivers are. And so maybe you want to use those to highlight, to say, hey, during this scenario, Mark, his drive plus on-site time is 20% higher than everyone else in the company, and we are in a time of reduced demand. So how do I get Mark to teach others in the company how to be more productive? There's some other ways, just simple ones like number of visits per day, making sure your number of visits per day, monitoring that. If it's dropping significantly, you may need to make some adjustments to your business, or adjustments to your shifts, or do half shifts. There's all kinds of different variables there, but just counting the number of visits. You can get more advanced, like you can say every time you go to the office, every time you go to the warehouse is a certain cost. You can say, I want to reduce the times you're doing that and therefore reduce my costs. You have some options there as well. Some additional things to think about is getting a sense of what you're planning for your drivers for the day and comparing it to what they actually did by using the Geotab data to say, well, I plan for you to do 8 stops over 8 hours, but you only ended up doing 7 stops and you still worked the full 8 hours. Do I need to allow for more time for you to do your job? Do I need to, coach you? Do you need to be taking different routes? Do you need to not take that hour-and-a-half lunch? Thinking about those kinds of things are really important in staying productive. And typically, as part of all this, it's good to establish a goal. Graphics on the right are just some mock-ups, some what-ifs of things you could do. Is my goal is 70% productivity, or 6 hours of driving time plus on-site time every day. And if you're not meeting that goal, we need to have a conversation, or I need to cut back my hours or do something accordingly. So it's always good to have a goal in mind as you're thinking about assessing your utilization. So I want to show you 4 things that you can do right this second today, tools that are in Geotab to give you a better sense of your asset utilization. So I'm going to talk through 4 reports, and you could put these 4 reports in a new dashboard, and you can have your own asset utilization dashboard today. One I think is key is the asset utilization report. Now, these are all available in the dashboard in my Geotab. So you could add this report, and this breaks down the most and least utilized vehicles in your fleet. And it's good in the sense of it gives you, without overwhelming, to say if I have, whether it's 10 or 100 vehicles, it's going to quantify, here's the vehicles you need to operate more like on the most utilized, and here's one you need to assess, coach, potentially pull from the field, adjust their habits accordingly with the least utilized assets. So that one's a really good one to get started. Fleet utilization report is good because it kind of summarizes what's your driving range. You can get a sense of how my vehicles are being utilized in different driving range categories to give a sense of, ideally you want a more balanced approach if you're having to, spread the work among your existing assets. If you're looking to get a sense of what you're doing more than others, it just gives you a good summary view there. Another one I think is important to get a trend of what's going on is this fleet distance trend report. And so what this does, whether it's by day or week or month, maybe you want to do it by week as things are changing rapidly, is to get a sense of what's the driving demand in my field as part of this current situation. You get a sense of, take the graphic on the right, looks like it's gone from about 500 to 600 miles to about half to 100 to 50. So I now have 50% capacity. I now have to either figure out how to spread the work amongst multiple people. I have to put people on temporary leave. These tools are there to help you make some of those decisions. So if the business is having a tough time, you can say, hey, look, I can use my fleet data, use a fleet distance trend to give a good summary guess of how much we're impacted in our world today. And then lastly, the most common used Geotab report mentioned at the end here is the watchdog report. If you guys are having cases where vehicles are going home or pulling out of use, you'll get a sense of which devices are offline and for how long. And that could be something you can engage a reseller to say, hey, look, I'm having a big uptick in my devices not being used. Maybe we should talk through some situations. So another thing there. And then lastly, there's lots of different ways to leverage Geotab to engage your data. I think zone configuration, is a key takeaway that you need to make sure is updated as part of the situation. And then that's going to help you really quantify how your driver behavior is changing. If you're looking to be more efficient, with the same assets or less assets, there's lots of routing tools available. Definitely multiple marketplace partners that specialize in routing. And whether you have 5 vehicles or 25 and you're looking to reduce the head count, using a routing tool will allow you to squeeze more work into the day because that's what they do best, is telling you where to go and when. So definitely consider those. Plan versus actual tools, there's one in Geotab. Reach out to support of your reseller if you need help engaging it. But it's, hey, I plan for these 8 stops, then we compare it to your Geotab data and give you a sense of how you did. Something that's new and up and coming is the data science package that Colin mentioned earlier. It is intended for customers, typically on the larger fleet side. But if you are, definitely check out those data sets, gives you some food for thought. And if you have any ideas of things you want to monitor, reach out to your reseller support, and happy to have discussions. We have APIs. You can pull out all the data and for your own consumption, whether you want to put it into your internal data warehouse, or if the sales and marketing teams are going to be like, we're struggling to get a sense of how our demand is changing. Hey, let's pull out some of the vehicle data by API. Let's put it into our internal data systems and really be able to do some investigation. And then from there, you can combine the fleet data with other customer data such as Salesforce, billing information. If you want to know how your driving behavior is comparing to payroll, maybe your drivers are driving on days with your company vehicle when their hours have been cut back. Maybe you want to get a sense of how that's working because that's an added cost you don't want to account for. This is an example on the right where just a mock-up of what you could do to get a sense of taking what you're planning for your drivers, comparing that to maybe a mobile application they have to status jobs or make sure they're entering information as part of the customer delivery, for example, and then comparing that to what the Geotab feed is. So you get a sense of what you're planning for and how the variance between that, what they're accounting for on their phone, and what they're actually doing can lead to improvements and efficiencies and just really improving your operations in general. So with that, I think that's all I have for today. So I'll hand it over to Derek to talk about the community.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. Excellent information, and really kind of piggybacking off of what you were going over and what Joel mentioned on finding ways to win in uncertain climate. I want to touch a little bit on the community, and what we put out there as a value proposition for the community is it being a one-stop shop for answers to your Geotab question, but it really is so much more than that. This is, as we're having more people who are working from home and changing their business climate, The community is an ecosystem of business professionals, industry professionals and fleet professionals that you can engage with. Again, working from home, whether you're working from your office, it doesn't matter. These are individuals who can help with interesting solutions to problems that you may have in your business. And so it is not only Geotab employees and Genevieve, our community manager, who is actively engaged. These are like-minded business professionals who are in the community, who are responding to questions, who are asking for help and feedback, and really sharing best practices to help move businesses forward. And I think that's the true value there, is you're engaging with so many individuals. I mean, with small and medium businesses, you may not have had other fleet professionals that you could run ideas by while you were in the office, and now you're working from home. And so this is a way to get connected. It's important to know that you're not alone. You have a rich ecosystem of individuals who are on the community. So we really encourage you to sign up. Start by just going to community.geotab.com, logging in. It utilizes your My Geotab credentials, so it is an easy sign-in process. But then just start joining the discussions. We have a getting to know you community forum just to, again, start discussions with other like-minded professionals that you may not have even known were out there and who are sharing best practices. Like Joel went over, there are amazing how-to videos, a getting started page. If you have new individuals starting an organization or those who are just not as familiar with the Geotab platform, they can get started there. But you can also find answers to your questions that are articles drafted by our support team. And the important thing here is they're created in the words of the customer. This is not how-to articles that we're creating based on questions we think people are going to ask. These are in the words of the customer. So they're easier for you to find, easier for your staff to find, and it is an amazing resource for you to supplement your own support and get individuals who are finding self-help right from the community. And we're coming up with new functionality on a daily. Like Joel mentioned, we're moving forward some of the original roadmap items that we had to make functions that are going to be helping your business and helping you stay connected. And so we have released our new group functionality. So you'll see in the top right image, right from the community, you just click on groups, and then you can join the new COVID-19 action group. And the way to think about groups is, instead of a full variety of threads, these are specific topics focused on things that you may be interested in. So you can join in, you can start joining in discussions about how to optimize your fleet, how to stay lean, looking at tactics that other companies are using, and strategies that the customers are undertaking given what's going on with the pandemic. So we also have a poll that's been created within the group. We'd love your feedback. We've come up with some ideas that we think would be helpful to move your business forward. But to be honest, the reason that we've created this is we want to hear from you, the voice from you on what more we could be doing, what more resources we can put out there, what questions we can help you with, and how we really can help move your business forward in these uncertain times. We want your feedback, and this is an avenue for us to not only have those ideas put out there, but you can upvote on them. You can comment on ones that people are putting out there, and this is going to help us with prioritization as well. If we see that a lot of people are requesting a particular webinar, then that helps us to shift our resources and make sure that we're delivering the content that's going to help you. This is just an image for the COVID-19 group. We just created yesterday, so we are going to be sending out an email with a direct link to join. So stay tuned for that as well, but we wanted you to be aware because, again, you can start engaging. There is, in the top right, you'll see you can subscribe to a digest for it. So for those who want to stay connected as new posts are released, you could have an email that's sent to you for every post. You could have a daily digest, weekly, monthly. Really, it's up to you. But you also want to just stay engaged as we add more polls, more questions, and as Joel mentioned earlier, this is where we're going to have new announcements that come out, especially as we have different webinars and different resources for you. So stay engaged, join the action group, and please contribute with ideas that we can help to move your business forward. So at this point, I believe we're going to move into the Q&A section.
We sure are, Derek. So one of the main questions that we have received so far is, will these slides be available? And the answer is yes. The first question for you guys we have here, and it looks like actually the only question so far, is that system shown as the case study for home dispatching ready and available from Geotab now?
Well, so that was just an example of a dispatch tool that a company would use, right? So that's an internal tool that we do have for enterprise customers, but those were just some visual screenshots to give you guys some things to think about. If you have, there are some marketplace tools that do dispatching, so definitely, reach out, look in the marketplace for those. But those are more just visual aids to talk through, the discussion there.
There are some really great tools inside my Geotab. If you're not familiar with some of the dispatch tools that we have, maybe we could do that on an upcoming Wildcard Wednesday talk, Shay. We could schedule it from hotshot delivery. So where is the vehicle right now? You have a dispatch, you can send straight to the driver an address to get it. They can go out and do it versus a scheduling tool. The first part of routing and scheduling or home dispatching is running data based on your existing situation. We have that today. So that's all available today to know where are your vehicles stopped. You've got all the planning tools. It's not a dispatch tool per se, except for the one-offs, but to do the analysis right now, to know where your vehicles are, where your customers are. I think what Ryan said that really resonated with me is the idea that as an employee, I might drive to a warehouse to pick up my vehicle and to conduct my daily route. But now I'm working from home, and let's say I'm able to take my work vehicle home with me. Well, what route do I do that day? Do I still drive out perhaps 20, 30 minutes to go and conduct the route that I would have normally been scheduled to? Or is it important right now for everyone to reassign customer trips and customer routes based on where the vehicle is now domiciled, based in the person's home setting, and not where the traditional route was going to always be because they were assigned to a route based on where the warehouse was. So just rethink the idea of this is not doing business as usual. Where the vehicle is domiciled, this probably makes sense, even mileage and time savings, to rethink how are you dispatching based on the domiciled location of the asset. And I think that's what the insight that I think I heard from your presentation, Rhonda. That was really great. I think that possibly it would be a great idea, Shay, if we did that on whether, I know you announced the topics for Wildcard Wednesdays, and topics can get fluidly changed. That would be a great topic for us to talk about home dispatching of assets and the tools currently available in my Geotab for customers.
Absolutely. We'll make sure we get that on the calendar ASAP. The next question that we have for you guys is the average daily durations dashboard available now?
Again, the average daily durations were more kind of mock-ups of things you could do with your data. We are, I think, as part of especially the current situation, looking to get some quick things in customers' hands that can add more of that detail. I think that was that first dashboard I had alluded to. But the four that I had mentioned at the end are the ones currently available, and that's where we definitely hear some feedback. Average daily durations, that could be something we could add in pretty quickly here. So that's good feedback. So I'll take that back to product team and our reporting team to see if we can add something in. So thank you for that.
All right, thanks, Ryan. Next question that we have is, could we also rethink these services by grouping, maybe associating different companies that could offer the same or similar services to customers within the same locations to provide the requested service, delivery, or others in order to reroute and optimize and lower their cost in more of an Uber-style service sharing kind of mindset?
Yes, I think that's exactly the kind of talking points and thoughts we want you guys to have. I mean, that's a brilliant idea of something you can do to change how you're offering your services to make the most of the situation. So yeah, that's exactly the kind of things we want you guys to encourage you guys to think about and use Geotab to help you make some of those decisions.
It might be one of those things, Derek, in the community for people that say, hey, I'm located in this particular city. Are there other customers out there that are interested in sharing assets or optimizing our fleet assets and our personnel based on this region, and share that with the community and get the community buzzing on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I was great minds think alike. I was about to chime in on that one. I think that it's an excellent idea to share and start the discussion, because then as you're starting to navigate these creative solutions, you can share what's working, what's not, and then others can get involved. And it's an excellent idea to post in the community and start the discussion so that you can get more buzz going.
Yeah, I mean, our ecosystem that we mentioned at the top of the call, it's not a linear relationship where Geotab sells to a reseller or sells to the customer and you use the product. It's very much an ecosystem. It's a vibrant ecosystem. We bring our partners together on an annual basis for our partner conference. We are part of that. We love hearing the interaction of customers saying, how can we collectively solve problems? Even sharing assets, that quite frankly is a bit of an industry trend, to do shared single vehicle assets for dispatch and delivery of goods. That is actually a trend that I think is going to continue. I think that that's an absolute great example of why the community website was created, to allow for that interaction to happen from customer to customer. Actually, it's not even filtered through resellers. This is customers asking questions that other customers can respond to and interact with.
Alrighty, last one we have here. With this downtime, it would be great to have customers have the ability to update their dashboards. Is there a most used reports bundle categorized by industry so that we could potentially provide that to our customers and resellers to get people set up for success?
Joel, I think you've got this great customer success team that reaches out to our partners and our customers, and we do certainly know most popular dashboards used, but then it depends on the industry cluster. It also depends on the priority of the company. What we try to do is make sure that our dashboards are simple to deploy. So you could even go onto the marketplace website, marketplace.geotab.com. You'll find free downloadable dashboards there. They're easy, you can see them, and if you like them, they're designed by Geotab. You just download them and upload them, and download them to your local machine, upload them up into your My Geotab instance, and bang, you've got yourself a dashboard, and you just can simply configure it yourself. So the idea that we have is that while we don't think that it's one size fits all, that every business is unique, every business has its own set of objectives, we've made dashboard creation and dashboard sharing using even our marketplace vehicle as a tool to download and upload these dashboards as a simple way for customers to configure exactly their instance of My Geotab the way they want to use it.
Yeah, and piggybacking off of that statement, so absolutely, we do have core dashboards that I think are relevant for all customers, and then as the nuance kind of dictates, depending on industry, we do have that as well. So what we can do and take back, I think on the community is a great place to start these group industry chats. We can have this kind of core and kind of essentials that every customer should have set up on their dashboard, and then we can start bifurcating and identifying per industry what those kind of core elements look like, and that'll be a great place for people to jump in as well and say what areas and what use cases they find relevant for their industries. But we can certainly take the first leap there and give you what we've seen in terms of experience and what per industry customers are focused on and what those dashboard tools look like. So thank you for the question, and that'll be action items on our side.
All right, so it looks like that was our last question, but to end on a little bit of a fun note, we have a compliment for Colin for staying clean shaven during all of this pandemic. So way to go, Colin. But with that being said, that makes this a wrap for Wildcard Wednesday. Thank you guys so much, especially to Joel, Derek, Colin, and Ryan for jumping on and going through this presentation and answering questions. If you do have any additional questions that pop into your mind, don't hesitate to reach out to your reseller, your account manager, or please jump on and leverage the Geotab community because it's going to get you answers so fast. You're going to just be amazed by it, I promise. With that being said, until next time, I'm Shay Green. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you guys next time. Stay safe and please make sure you're washing your hands.